Jan, you've been on the channel a few times now, and now that the mayor might be potentially Zohran Mamdani, will you vote for him?
I can't imagine anyone I would vote for after him. I think I would vote for, that truck over there, over him. No, put mildly, I will not be voting for him. My hope is that many other people will not be. The only thing I can really say is I am concerned. From what I've heard, only about 5% of New Yorkers voted for him. So in the primaries tend to be low turnout elections, so fringe candidates do better because they have a lot of energy, and then the regular voting mass just doesn't. The hope is that a lot of different people coalesce behind Eric Adams, because this is unacceptable. It's one thing to have Los Angeles or Chicago have some fringe, DEI mayor, but it is another to have an Islamist communist who's 32 and whose mom was a Bollywood millionaire director who has never worked a day in his life and is a failed rapper try to run New York City. New York City is not a city that we can sacrifice to Islamism or to communism. There's too much here, too much business, too much real estate. For Jewish people, too much has been invested. I don't know if it works the same way. I don't think people can just look past New York the same way and let it go.
And why do you think it'd be a bad thing to have an Islamist as a mayor here in New York City?
You want to look at an example of a Western city that's had a effectively Pakistani Muslim mayor. You look at London, right? And London has become unlivable, high crime, gangs, extreme prices. Only the very rich and very poor can afford to live there. That's effectively what would happen here, but mixed with now an even more aggressive sort of pro-intifada, pro-Islamism. I mean, the guy is what's called a 12-verse Sharia. So he has the same religious views, at least on paper, as Iran, which is that they believe that the Mahdi needs to emerge from wherever he's from, and that only in a time of chaos and Armageddon will he rise and recreate a perfect society. These are very dangerous people.
And does it worry you that Mamdani hasn't retracted the phrase globalize the Antifada?
Well, it worries me. Everything about him worries me, so it's hard to pick any one thing. But yes, he's tried to rephrase it as a struggle for independence. First of all, Mein Kampf also means my struggle. So there you go. Second of all, the Intifada is an Islamist chant. People need to understand that Jews are just canaries in the coal mine. They're just first. His movement, his people, are not just anti-Jewish. That's just the first step. They're anti-white, they're anti-Western, they're anti-democracy. All these movements, there is no voting in the Muslim world. There's not a democratic movement. It's not a place of women's rights or gay rights or really anybody's rights. Rich people have multiple wives in these cultures. So yes, it extremely worries me, but it says a lot. We have to not just look at Mamdani. We have to also look at the fact that people voted for this. Liberal white women, a lot of homosexuals, an extremely growing number of Muslims here in New York City, which people didn't really realize till after October 7th. Maybe they came here under Biden. No one really knows. It's disturbing because if you look at the groups that voted for him, it was not the traditional 50-plus year-long Democrat voting blocks. Blacks and Latinos did not vote for him. They voted for Cuomo. It's white liberals, particularly white women, and it's Asians, which includes Pakistanis and I believe possibly Arabs as well. I don't know actually, but a lot of people like that voted for him. So that should be disturbing as well, that there are people who are willing to vote for this and just think, oh, it's clever and cute. He uses funny words and he's foreign and he believes in all these cool non-Western things. It sounds so fun. These things are not fun. These are dangerous society-ending ideologies.
And some of his policies are such as government-ran grocery stores are a $30 minimum wage, or they're going to freeze the rent. What will happen in New York City if this guy does win?
So going through each of those. So government is in no position to ever dictate these types of things. And every time it does and puts its heavy hand on the economy, it always makes it so much worse. I'm from Moscow originally. I would know. We ran from there once. I'd like to not do it again. But if you create government subsidized stores, you will destroy regular stores while jacking up prices of this stuff anyway. The amount of taxes you're going to have to increase to do this, he's published, his budget is going to triple what it presently is. I believe from something like 20 billion, was it 20 to 60 billion, or 2 billion to 6 billion? I don't remember what it is. It's tripled. So, but then as people start to leave, you're looking at taxing the people that stay even more because the taxes go up and they have to raise them more and more and more because the budget keeps falling short. As far as real estate, people are going to just stop developing. They're going to start warehousing apartments. At some point, the government is going to be stuck owning some of these tenements, which of course is going to be more tax obligations. And the city is going to become Detroit. We know what happens. Detroit fell apart in a generation. Do we want New York to be another Detroit? What happens if the stock exchange leaves? What happens if all the big law firms leave? Because people will want to leave.
You think New York City will fall if this guy is elected mayor?
Oh, there's no question. It's already barely surviving. Because you have to remember, we had a quasi-communist mayor about 8 years ago in de Blasio, or 12 years ago. The difference was back then, that was after Bloomberg, who made the city blossom. In the last 12 years, things have not been going well. All the various state bills, COVID, the city's not the same. Everything's very expensive. It's really only for the very rich and very poor. Young people move here, live like 4 to an apartment, paying their entire salary in rent and groceries. If you continue to move in that direction and take an even sharper leftist turn, plus you start importing various Islamist ideologies, the city simply can't survive. No one wants to stay here, and there's no money to be made anymore.
Who is the best option? You have Eric Adams, Curtis on the Republican side, or this guy right here. Eric Adams is running as an independent. You have Curtis as a Republican.
And Cuomo? Cuomo's done. You know, it's like, hey, we got through COVID together. It's like, as people were joking, like, not everyone got through COVID together. A lot of people died in your hospitals. So he's toxic, and also women now hate him.
He didn't win the primaries, though.
No, but he can still run as another independent. He can run as yet his own party. Hopefully he does not. How arrogant would he have to be after blowing this election with such a money advantage to now do this? Slee was a joke. He's never getting elected. He's not. He's been doing this forever. It's like a meme. It has to be Adams. I'm not saying Adams is perfect, but the city's been okay under him. He's not been worse than de Blasio was. He was better, arguably. He somewhat cooperates with ICE, because it's the same thing every time. It's the same liberal white girl who says, oh my God, that ICE is so evil, and like, we need to have more diversity, and then she gets assaulted on the subway, and she cannot understand how that possibly could have happened. And I'm like, you don't really see the connection between these two things, really? Like, it's not obvious to you? So the hope is that people wake up, but at this point, I'm not so sure if that's even possible.
And why do you think here in New York City you guys have NYU, you have other large universities, why do you think a lot of these colleges are leaning more and more liberal, and you're seeing a lot of the supporters for Mamdani are people at these universities?
There was a project in post-1967 by the Soviet Union. This guy, Yuri Bezmenov, who basically believed that he understood that the Soviet Union could not beat America or the West in direct economic or military conflict. The best thing to do was to poison them with this kind of leftist, self-destroying ideology. And now, 50, 60 years later, it's been incredibly successful. These colleges have almost uniformly liberal professors, far left. They are a microcosm of the left because they are these ecosystems that are unnatural. A college is funded by a mix of government, student loans, which many are from government, and parents' money. They're not real. The money is not, they're not breaking even, they're not producing anything. They are fantastical places where a lot of these liberal white kids go. They leave stupider than they came. They learn about, Pan-Asian basket weaving or like African studies with a mix of communist ideology. They come out with no understanding, no education. You look at who voted for Mamdani, it was mostly the educated. I would love to see what the median income of those educated people are. I would gamble that a majority of them are under $50,000. Same type of girl working as a copywriter or at some nonprofit making 40 grand a year with a 4-year degree, which she'll be paying her student loans after she's dead with her cat.
And you're a business owner, you're a lawyer here inside the city. What are your clients telling you about what's going on with the city? And what the future looks like if this guy does win?
A lot of my clients are, I'm sorry to say, people in real estate. They almost have Stockholm syndrome. Like, they've been so broken by just a constant one leftist idiot after another. And also, remember, they're also affected not only by the city, but by state laws. For instance, in 2019, 2 horrendous bills were passed. One about no bail and one about expanding rent stabilization. Those are both state bills. So they've already been so abused, but a lot of them are in real estate, which means they can't really move. Other people have themselves moved to Florida, but continue to operate here in New York. Their attitude is, some of them think it's a disaster. Others say, we've always survived, we've survived worse. They have that Jewish attitude. We're like, we survived the Nazis, we survived the Egyptians, we survived the Romans, we'll survive this idiot too. But that doesn't mean that for regular people, my clients aren't regular people, they're successful people. They can survive. Often in these kinds of chaotic, horrible situations, successful people become more successful. That's why in a communist society or in an Islamic society, there is no middle class. There's just regular people living like animals, and there's the few living like pigs, right? So that unfortunately tends to happen in these types of command societies.
And one of Mamdani's policies, because he wants to essentially make New York City Trump-proof by raising enough money through other forms to not have to receive federal funding. And one of the ways he wants to do it is by taxing the rich, people that make over $1 million a year, an extra 2%. What will happen to that group of people that are making $1 million? Will they leave New York City, or do you think they're going to stay?
So right now we're talking about the border and building a border wall. The Soviet Union also had a curtain or a wall, except it kept people in. Because the thing about communism is it's so much fun, you can't leave. And it only works when people who produce, which is the minority, can't leave. What this little moron does not understand is that this is America. People can just leave New York. He's gambling that they cannot move with their job, or they can't move with their family. He's sorely mistaken. And the other thing he has to remember is that he is the mayor, he's not the governor, meaning that people don't need to leave the state to avoid him. They can just leave the city. And the more he tries to Trump-proof it by charging his people more those people will leave, the more monetary shortages he has, the more he must raise taxes, and the cycle will continue. He's more than welcome to try. We'll see what happens. There is some discussion of whether or not he can be denaturalized, because when you sign to become a citizen, I think there's an oath you take that you're not a member of any terrorist or communist organization. He is arguably members of both. So the question is, would the Trump administration be willing to look at him? Because a part of me, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, I don't know, is Donald Trump, who grew up in the city and who became who he is in the city, really willing to let this city go? It's one thing to let Chicago get worse or LA burn, but it's another thing to let New York become a communist Islamic utopia, which is to say dystopia. I wonder if that's going to happen, or if he's going to allow it to happen.
And he's also saying stuff like, we're going to tax the white neighborhoods. He's used the phrase white neighborhoods. Not black neighborhoods, not white neighborhoods, not New Yorker neighborhoods, but white neighborhoods.
Do you guys sometimes get the impression that maybe, I almost sometimes wonder if he's just an experiment by someone with a terrible sense of humor to see how stupid can white liberals be? Like, let's see how much insane nonsense can someone say. Globalized intifada, community supermarkets, what you just said about taxing white neighborhoods. Like, what's next? All gay people get a free horse. Like, you can only own a gun if you're under 5'2". Like I wonder what other thing can he put forward, and white idiots will still vote for him. Like, something like that. What do you even do with that? Like, what is it with the white liberal mind that makes it so broken that they feel the need to abuse themselves as much as possible? It's like self-flagellation. The last time I saw this, it happened with like Catholic priests, which is a very small group of like Opus Dei people. Why do white liberals feel the need to hate themselves so much? What's wrong with them? I don't have the answers. I'm sort of asking out loud.
Another one of Mamdani's policies is to defund the police and bring in a new group of police that would just be outreach and be helping people here on the streets. What do you think would happen to New York City if Mamdani does go through with another one of his policies to defund the police?
Portland, Oregon is what will happen, except with tremendously more crime. It's a much larger city. White women that voted for him will be targets of both robberies and assaults on a constant basis. Police in New York City don't get paid as much as they do out on Long Island. And it's not like we have this group of, military veterans, like random white dudes out in the country that become police officers. People will just quit. They'll leave. A lot of New York State has very powerful pension protection, so many of them will get to 20 years and quit. You're going to have no police in New York City. None. And then, only then will people realize that some of these changes are very hard to undo. Very hard.
And any last warning you'd give to your fellow New Yorkers about who they should vote for, or who they should consider voting for, or why they could potentially consider not voting for Mamdani?
A pound of prevention is worth a ton of cure. You will not be able to undo what this man does to the city. And I use the word man loosely. You cannot, it's very hard to undo migration. It is very hard to undo entitlements. It is very hard to undo expanded budgets. As you see now with the big beautiful bill, it's very hard to both cut spending and also cut the deficit and also cut taxes. These are one-way roads. So if you elect this savage now, it will not get better. You will not be able to take your city back. And in 4 years, he will make this place toxic and radiated. It will not be livable. So whatever, by hook or by crook, by any means necessary, he cannot and should not become mayor of the city.